Welcome to the Craft to Career podcast with Elizabeth Chappell, where every week we dive into how you can turn your craft into a successful career. Get ready to have the career you've always dreamed of.
Welcome to episode 25 of the Craft to Career podcast. This week we have Shannon Brinkley as the guest. She is so fun and insightful. You're really going to love hearing from her. It's neat to chat with her because she and I have a lot of similarities. We both offer a course, we have a membership, and we have branched out into different ways of earning an income in the quilting sphere world. And she talks a lot about these different ways to earn an income within this quilting community, but it also translates into other aspects of if you're not a quilter, if you're just a creative or an entrepreneur. And she's just got some great stuff. I love chatting with her. And by the end, I was motivated. You'll see what we talk about, but I was motivated to do a few things myself. And before we dive into that, I want to read a review from Maria.delightfullyquilted. Maria says, Elizabeth does a great job interviewing her guests about the story behind their success. I've learned a lot as I'm going through the process of starting up my own quilt boutique. Thank you for all the insights into the quilting industry. Thank you, Maria, for your review. And I do love giving insights into the quilting industry. In fact, I'm really excited. I've had a few people reach out and ask about doing a podcast on having a quilt pattern launch, specifically a double launch, as I've just launched 2 patterns, and how to host a quilt along. So those are topics that will be coming down the road. So thank you for leaving your reviews, for letting me know what topics you'd like to hear more about, because I really do want to serve you as listeners and give you information that's helpful to you. So with that said, let's dive in and I'll introduce you to Shannon. All right. I am super excited to have Shannon on the show today. Shannon is a perfect example of someone who has taken their craft and turned it into a career and done it very gracefully and very successfully. So Shannon, I am so excited to have you here. For our listeners, can you introduce yourself and just tell us a little bit about how you got into quilting?
Absolutely. Thanks so much for having me. It's so fun to be able to chat with you. I could talk all day long about business, so this is just such a pleasure. I began quilting in college and was quilting in my dorm room. I was probably the only girl in my dorm room with a sewing machine and quilting on a Friday night. Super cool. And continued quilting. I was studying elementary education. I never even considered that quilting could have anything to do with my career. I never even considered starting a business. I thought the business majors at my school were really boring. So that never even crossed my mind. And it wasn't until I'd been teaching for a few years, I taught 3rd grade. And my husband, it's funny, we were watching House Hunters International, the TV show, and we're seeing these people who would just move to Mexico or move to Italy. And we were asking, what on earth do they do for a job? How are they able to just up and move to a different country? And we're completely envious of that flexibility. And so we started doing a little research and Googling, well, what could we do remotely? And that was really the beginning. It was this desire for more freedom, for that freedom of working where we wanted to work, working when we wanted to work. And so that was the kind of seed that started things back in 2011, somewhere around there. And so then I decided, we started learning as much as we could. I became completely voracious to learn about what it meant to start your own business. And I thought, well, I already love quilting. We're supposed to find a niche, so maybe this is it. And kind of started from there. So I started making quilts. I actually started making quilts in the I had been making quilts for years, but in the context of starting a business, I had no clue what I was doing. I started originally with an Etsy shop selling quilts and quickly learned that that was not going to be the way that I wanted to move forward. And because I would end up spending everything that I made just on the quilt supplies, let alone my own time. And so through that Etsy shop, I was kind of growing and developing my own style. And I was making lots of quilts and selling them for almost nothing, no profit.
Mm-hmm.
I think I sold baby quilts for like $185 or something like that. And, but out of that grew my style that I now call scrappy applique. So I think everything happens in the perfect timing and as it's supposed to. And so then I started thinking, well, maybe I could teach people to make quilts like what I'm doing, because I don't really see a lot of people doing, or I don't see this type of quilting really at all at the time. And so on a whim, I decided I did some research looking around for publishers, and kind of on a whim, I reached out to a book publisher. I talked to the acquisitions editor over at C&T, at Stash Books, which is a subset of C&T Publishing. And she gave me some feedback, and then I submitted my book proposal. And then about a month later, it was accepted. And so then after that, I started teaching and designing quilt patterns, and everything has just kind of spiraled from there.
That is so cool. So this is really interesting to hear. First of all, some similarities. I also studied education and I taught English. And I remember I worked in the business section of the library on my college campus. And literally people would come in to study business. And I was like, that is so boring. Oh my gosh. And it's so fascinating that like business is not boring. It's really not.
No, I could talk all day about marketing now, whereas before I used to think it was completely boring or even kind of sleazy. But now I've learned how to make it generous and creative and playful and fun. And so it's as much a part of the creative process, I think, as making my quilts.
Totally. And I one day we'll have to meet in real life, because I seriously could chat about business all day too, which is why we're here. So,
oh yeah.
So this scrappy applique, did you have a name for it? Like, was it something? How did this come about?
Yeah. So you know what's funny is, so I was new to like the quilt world, the quilt industry. I had been making quilts, but I didn't really know what else was going on in the quilt industry. I was totally self-taught. I didn't even, after making several quilts, I was like, I think there's probably a better way to finish it, because I didn't even understand how to do binding. I just kind of made up how to finish the edges of the quilt. And so it was very self-taught. I didn't know anything about the quilt industry and didn't know very much or anything at all about marketing and positioning. And so at the time I was thinking, okay, these quilts are really quick to make. That's probably why people are going to like them and why they're going to want to make them. So I'm going to call it 8-hour quilt, because I just read Tim Ferriss's 4-hour work week. So I was like, okay, it'll be the perfect thing to do. And so that was my kind of working title. When I then talked to the acquisitions editor over at C&T and I sent her some photos of my work, she said, well, your photos are really gorgeous. I love, and she very elegantly and graciously pivoted me toward the positioning of, well, this is an interesting style and technique. Let's focus on that. And so I didn't have a name at all. Then the working title became collage quilting, which would have been way too generic. It was actually the brains over at C&T. They were, the team, the acquisitions team, and the editors and publishing team, had different meetings about my book, and they came up with the name Scrappy Bits Applique and shared it with me. And I thought, at first I thought that sounded really weird, and then it grew on me, and then I couldn't think of any other name. And so the book was Scrappy Bits Applique, and then the technique I've since coined and trademarked as Scrappy Applique.
Yeah, that is so cool. And then you also, I know just from like hearing you and seeing you speak that you like to do live lectures. You like to teach people in person. Was that something that came after the book? Like, how did you first get started with that? And how has that been for you as far as your business has gone?
Yeah, so that was really big and a really key revenue stream early on. As soon as my book was published, I started reaching out to quilt guilds. It was actually Angela Walters who gave me the suggestion of just reaching out to quilt guilds and starting to introduce yourself and offer to teach. And there's the people on the board of these quilt guilds are always looking for content. They're always looking for workshops. And so if you're able to save them the trouble of finding you and actually reaching out to them, all the better. And so I started reaching out to quilt guilds and introducing myself, sharing some photos in the email, and started teaching. So I started teaching and traveling around the country, around North America, and did that for several years, teaching scrappy applique, and then eventually my color curriculum that I've developed, Color Confidence for Quilters. And it wasn't until a couple years ago now, I think it was 2019, we got to the point where the number of requests coming in for me to teach was way beyond what I could or wanted to do.
Mm-hmm.
I wanted to focus on the scalable products within our business, the online workshops, the membership, things like that. And I also at that point started this mentorship program, Patchwork, for fellow business owners, people who wanted to grow their own business. And I was hearing over and over, I want to start my business, but I don't have my own IP. I don't have my own technique or anything like that. Where do I begin? And so we thought that we could solve both of those problems together. So we developed our teacher certification program. So we're actually now certifying teachers in our trademarked products, our Scrappy Applique and Color Confidence for Quilters. So now instead of me traveling around and teaching, we then defer those requests for me to teach. We send them to our page on our website for our CTs and send them the referrals. So that's kind of how we've structured that. Initially, though, that was my primary revenue stream, teaching, and I think is still the quickest and easiest way to start a business in the quilt industry.
Mm-hmm.
Once you have something to teach.
Right. And I love
Yeah.
that you offer this opportunity for people who have that desire, but don't have something of their own. So here, get
Mm-hmm.
certified and you can go and teach, have that teaching opportunity, have something unique to offer. And I'm so impressed. Like, how did you think to train people and outsource that?
It was actually a lot of that. We have been talking about, when we run into different problems within our business, we discuss it and we kind of let it stay there lightly. Like we don't stress about the problem. We just let it kind of float around lightly and trust that a solution is going to come up. And so over time, through lots of conversations with my husband, the idea of this teacher certification program kind of grew and developed. And his corporate background was in learning development for companies. So if you've ever heard of Myers-Briggs,
Mm-hmm.
that system, it was a similar business model, similar type of content. And so he was already really familiar with the business model of training and certifying people in your IP, your intellectual property, and licensing them to then go and teach or facilitate. And so we already had that context, and Matt was able to bring all of his experience and knowledge of that into then, okay, well, how can we make that work within our industry and for our business? So that's pretty much how it began.
Mm-hmm. That's so cool. And I think too, so you and I, our listeners don't know, but we've chatted before. I think I reached out to you like, can we just chat? I just love meeting people who are quilters and business women or business people. So, so we have chatted, and if you want to share with our listeners, your husband is on board with helping your business full time. Can you share what he does, what hats he wears? I mean, you kind of touched on that with this idea, but I'm sure there's more that he does. So I'm super curious to hear about that.
Yeah. So it was in 2019, the spring of 2019, Matt left his corporate job. We had sticky notes I got a sticky notepad and had counting down the days, and we had it on the fridge. And so each day he would pull off the sticky note and it was counting down to when he was able to go to his last day at his job. And then before then coming and joining me in the business. So that was a huge goal. I mean, it was back from 2011 when that initial seed was planted for us to both be able to work remotely. I had been working remotely for years at that point. But then the business was finally at the point where we felt confident in him leaving. And so that was in 2019. And the business has just grown so much since. And we've added, we have another full-time employee, Katie, who wears a lot of hats as well. And we have customer service guru, Janelle, and we have a few contract workers and hiring another one now. So it's really grown since then. Matt is our COO. He's in charge of operations. So he handles a lot of the logistics, a lot of, in terms of printing products, shipping and delivering products, patterns and things like that. He is, as I already said, really closely involved in our teacher certification program. He is in contact with our accountant and all things financial. He handled the trademarking of our IP. So he wears a lot of different hats.
He does. He really does. And so your Facebook game is awesome, by the way, your Facebook ads.
Oh, thanks.
And I don't know if you have them other places as well, but how did you learn to do those ads? Did you take a course? There's so many questions I have, but we'll start with that.
Yeah. Well, really, I am of the mindset that I, within my business, have always just figured out what I needed to when I needed to do it. I think a lot of business owners and what I've experienced with mentoring lots is that they will feel very overwhelmed at the beginning and feel and just won't even kind of begin or get started. And so Facebook ads wasn't something that I tackled at the very beginning. It was something I think that I started using in like 2016, right at 2017, maybe somewhere around there. And it was like everything I taught myself. I started learning as much as I possibly could. I did take a few different classes, a few different courses that I was a part of as well, had, additional side Facebook training. So I was just gobbling up as much as I could and then just started testing it out. And that has been a really, a strong source of traffic for us and what's helped us grow our email list to the size that it is. And which then I believe firmly and know that your email list directly correlates, the size of your email list directly correlates to the size of your income that you're bringing in, the size of your revenue. And so you could, if we put them both on a little plot chart, you could see how as our email list was growing, so was our revenue, really hand in hand.
Yeah. Okay. And I love this as well because I think I've seen you address this in like a Instagram Live or something, but you were talking about you don't focus a ton on Instagram. That's not your thing. And so Facebook ads, it looks like email is what you focus on. And Facebook, I've been wondering, how do you grow your email list? So is it mostly Facebook ads or how do you grow that?
Yeah, initially it was through Instagram. It was through Instagram engagement. If you go to my Instagram and scroll back, I was a lot more active a few years ago. But then once I started with the Facebook ads, I could see so much quicker results and I was able to reach so many more people and much more easily. And I was able also to track my return on ad spend, the return on the investment. And so I was able to see, okay, I can spend this much money and get this many new email subscribers. Also, the fact that when I have found that email marketing is at least 20 times as effective as social media marketing. Even back when I was posting consistently, you post on, everyone knows that you post on Facebook, you post on Instagram, and only a tiny fraction of your audience actually sees it. But if you send out an email, everybody gets it. Not everybody's going to open it, but everybody gets it. And so the conversions are so much higher. Also, social media is a distraction machine. They have teams and teams of people whose sole job is how can we get people to stay on this platform longer, which is really challenging as a business owner because you want to bring them over to your platform and have them start engaging with your content and learning about you. And so I've found that email marketing is just leaps and bounds more effective. And I can only juggle so many things at once. And so social media has been a ball that I've just allowed to drop. I think we will, moving forward, be doing a little bit more on social media, be doing more on Instagram. But it also became a source of stress for me. It became where I would get on the platform and it was just really, really stressful. So I thought, this is a ball I can let drop. I'm going to step away and I'll come back to it if I can do it in a way that feels fun and feels like just a natural sharing of my creativity and what I'm working on, rather than, okay, I have to do this for the business.
Yeah. And it's interesting looking back at your progression where you started off. I feel like it's pretty easy and normal for someone to start off on, let's say, Instagram, YouTube, whatever it might be.
It's free.
It's free, right? And you can collaborate and all of that. But to grow the email list, and it's so funny because people are always shocked, like, get out. There is no way the email list. I'm like, it's true. Like, it's in the email list.
100%.
And time and time again, it's so liberating hearing this, that like, you can let that Instagram go. But you do have to focus somewhere. Like, you've got the Facebook ads. There's got to be something that you're connecting with your audience. I am curious if you're willing to share what your email list size is roughly.
Yeah. Our email list size is right now right around 75,000.
That's awesome.
Yeah. And it wasn't always there. It was, it started out where when I just started my email list, it was, a couple dozen. And then as I was teaching, I would bring a notepad with me and have people sign up for my email list there, and I would plug it in. And then I started, sharing and trying to find ways to draw people from Instagram, is where I was hanging out more, to sign up for my email list. I was giving different incentives. And then I started my Facebook ads, and it grew to a few hundred, a few thousand, then tens of thousands. So, it just slowly but surely it does. And I can see directly the revenue that's resulting from those ads. So I can very confidently spend lots of money in Facebook ads because I know exactly, more or less based on the data, I know how much I'm going to get back. So I can do that really wisely and invest that money well within my business. And I know, okay, for every, at this point in the business, I know with different marketing campaigns that we do, I know for every dollar I spend, I can get $2 back or $3 back, or, depending on what it is, sometimes $5 back. So, and grow my list at the same time. So it becomes like a, broken slot machine that you run into at Vegas. If every time you put $1 in, you would get $3 back, how much money would you put into that slot machine?
Okay, this is so exciting for me. We have got to talk about this because I just in the last year started doing Facebook ads. So how long? Okay, total transparency. I've grown my email list by a lot with Facebook ads, but I'm not seeing the conversion. So I offered, one of my biggest things that I offered that helped grow the list was a free pattern. So obviously you want to have an upsell, where you're offering something after that. And I tried, didn't really work as well. So I'm so curious how this Facebook launch thing has gone for you throughout the years. Like, did you have some flops? What things are you offering in the Facebook ads? What brings the best conversion? All the things.
Yeah. So sure. Yes, of course there were flops. There's going to be flops and failures in anything that you do. So much of running a business is, taking a piece of spaghetti, throwing at the wall and seeing what sticks. So what has worked really well initially, it was the free pattern. Also, I had a free pattern that I was offering, and that was what was growing the email list. And then in the newsletter that I would be sending out, I would be sharing about my patterns and sharing about my, my workshops and stuff like that. And so I could then see that, okay, my email list is at 1,000 now. And whenever I send out my emails, I'm making, $200 for every newsletter I send out, or maybe it's this much, and et cetera. And it just, slowly and steadily grows. And I've heard before, and I've found, at least with my experience in my business and starting to work with other business owners too, is that for your email list, for a well monetized business, you can make around, and this is super rough, so just let it just be a very, very rough number, but you can make around $1 per subscriber per month.
Mm-hmm.
For a well monetized email list. I don't know if that has been your experience or not within your business.
I mean, that's okay. Has that been your experience? Because I've heard this too. Are you a Russell Brunson fan? Do you like?
I have followed. I've followed from him. I've learned from him a little bit. He's not my cup of tea.
Okay. Yeah.
So there's other people that I enjoy more, so I go with them.
All right. You'll have to share who your go-to whatever mentors are. But
yeah,
I don't remember where I heard that, if it was from him or somewhere else, but I heard that. And I looked at my list and how much I'm bringing in each month. I'm like, no, I should be bringing in more. Yeah. If that were true. So I don't know if I need to be offering more per month, or I don't know.
But probably offering more and potentially more higher ticket products.
Yeah. So the things that you offer, you have, and I'll list what I know, and then there's probably more that I'm not sure of. So you have a course that you mentioned, and I can't remember the name of it, but it's a business course where you're helping people, have patchwork. And then you have a membership, which I've been a member of, which is really awesome. And you have the training, the trademark, Scrappy Applique. And then actually, I don't even know, but I'm assuming you have patterns that you sell.
Yeah. So our product suite looks like, we have the Scrappy Applique product suite. And that was really that's what started everything out. So we had Scrappy Applique patterns, have the book, had an online workshop, and then a whole bunch of digital patterns. And so we've since bundled all of that together and have the Scrappy Applique school and library. And so it's the full Scrappy Applique workshops, some bonus classes, as well as all of our PDF patterns, all live in that. So that's a one-time fee type of purchase, so course style purchase. And then we have our membership Meander, where we we help quilters grow and develop their own unique quilt making style. And by exploring lots of different styles in quilt making, and also mastering color. And so that's the focus of Meander. It's a monthly membership. Right now it's a $19 price point per month, or $190 for the year. Scrappy Applique, it was the school and library was $97. We're going to, next time we offer it, up it probably to $197. And then if not more, because we're going to be adding lots of value in there. And then, and we do have individual patterns people can purchase a la carte at the normal pattern price. And then Patchwork is our business training program, where we teach people how to take their own IP and then grow and scale a business using the methods that I've done. And that is a course and coaching program. And so that's at the, what is it? It's $12.97 price point. At least the last time we offered it. And then the teacher certification program is our other one. And that's at a higher price point to certify people in our IP.
Okay. So, and I guess I'm thinking about the math. I mean, if I take what I earn a year and divide it by the subscribers on the email list, then it probably is, equaling out to more than the dollar. But what I'm thinking is, every time I send out a newsletter, I'm not seeing with every newsletter that kind of sale. Do you see that with every newsletter that you send out?
So back whenever, a few years ago, I was focused more on kind of the lower product. And I think this is what a lot of people in our industry do. They're focusing on patterns, individual pattern sales, mostly. And they get on this hamster wheel of creating a new pattern, putting it out there, and then making a little bit of money, creating a new pattern, putting it out there, making a little bit of money, and then get themselves completely exhausted. And so when that was I did see a direct correlation at that point from the number of people and how many emails I sent out, and then how much money was coming in, and it was relatively consistent. However, now we've transitioned in the last several years to more of a launch style model. And so we'll have these bigger promotions, maybe quarterly instead, bigger promotions. And then we do have some evergreen things running along also. So there's definitely, it's not consistent. Like it's not our full revenue divided by 12 for each month. There's huge ebbs and flows. And peaks and yeah.
That makes me feel better. Okay.
Yeah.
So, and then your membership, do you open it? Is it open all the time? Do you have open close? How does that work?
Initially, we did open close, and that was fine. And we, though, are right now experimenting with keeping it open all the time, but just having special promotions that provide that oomph. And so that's, I mean, as you know, creating some kind of urgency, a reason for people to buy now is totally essential. And what most business owners in our industry that I've seen are lacking. They create patterns, create workshops, and just put it on their website and say, okay, hey, come buy it. Come buy it when you want to. It's here for you. But whenever you do that, your customers have three options. They're either going to say yes, no, or maybe later. And decision fatigue is a real thing. And so if they're able to choose maybe later, they're going to choose maybe later. And so the conversions go down hugely. However, when you have that kind of a reason for them to purchase now, so if it's an open close style membership, or if it's open all the time, same with products. So the Scrappy Applique workshop is open all the time, but we'll have special promotions at different times. Like if you join now, you get to join me for a live workshop, or if you join now, you get the special bonus. And so we're doing the same thing with Meander and kind of experimenting to see how that works. It's a piece of spaghetti that we're testing out.
Yeah. So my membership, I did the same. I started off, I think it was Stu McLaren who I listened to talk about, you know, memberships. And he definitely recommended like you have an open and you have a close. And I did that and it worked really well, but I would see every time I opened, numbers would go up, they'd trickle down slowly. And I was like, you know what, let's keep it open all the time. It did not work well. It didn't.
Nope.
And so we went back and sure enough, like it just and he talks about like, if you're seeing an item that's for sale and they say you can buy it whenever, you'll save it like, oh, cool. Yeah, I'll come back and get it. But if you
pin it,
you
right?
pin it. Exactly. It's like, cool. Yeah. But if it's, you can only buy it till this time. And you know, what's interesting is I've had a few people, not directly, but they'll post about like, why are they selling this for a limited time? That's so gimmicky and salesy. I'm like, you can call, I do not find it salesy and gimmicky. Like if someone wants a product, you're helping them make that decision quicker and faster and be decisive about it. And there are certain things, I'm sure with you as well, with the courses, with trainings, where there's some personal one-on-one interactions. And if that's available all the time as a business owner, you cannot do it. Like it's impossible. Yeah. And
absolutely.
This open cart, closed cart, there's more rhyme and reason besides just like, and okay, I'm curious if you ever feel, do you ever like, I love the business side. I love studying like the psychology of sales and all of that. And sometimes do you ever struggle with, this is really working. Wow. I feel like that's salesy or slimy, even though it's not, just because we understand how it works. Do you ever struggle with that?
So I used to in the beginning, but I have since come to the understanding that, and I think, so you asked about some of my business mentors, Marie Forleo is one of them. And she's just a beautiful human and very smart entrepreneur. And she shares a lot. And what I've noticed too, is that if you believe in what you're creating, if you love what you're creating and know that there is so much value in it, that your products are awesome and that people are going to really enjoy what the experience of them, whether that is something that they are going to learn, whether that's a way for them to get outside of their comfort zone, try something new, or just make something pretty, or just have a lovely afternoon of feeling distracted and creative. That's a generous thing. And so it is then up to you to then do everything you can to get that in as many hands as you possibly can. And I think that that is an act of generosity, of sharing this awesome thing that you created much more. So I focus on that. And my main focus too, and I think what's really helpful also is that I think when you have your flashlight of attention that you can only shine in one direction. I think this is a metaphor that I learned from Marie Forleo as well. You have a flashlight of attention that you can only focus in one direction. Most of the time we have it pointed toward ourselves and we're focusing on, I wonder what other people are thinking of me. I wonder, I wonder if this is going to work. And you are stressing out and overthinking. However, if you can turn it around and just point it toward your audience and focus on, okay, how can I create a completely just fun and delightful experience, whether they decide to buy from me or not? How can I add as much value as possible and let that be your number one focus, and not even stressed about what the end result is going to be, how much money you're going to make, any of that. If you can just focus on how can I provide value to my audience, to these quilters, then I think that is just the secret sauce.
I absolutely love that. Okay. And this is like when you said you take the flashlight and instead of pointing it on you, you point it on, your customers, the people that you're serving. Mm-hmm. How do you do that when I'm just assuming at this point, anyone who has a business and is putting themselves out there, you have had some people who are not happy with the product, that it's just not the right fit for them. And probably someone was grumpy about it. How do you overcome that? And how do you not have that flashlight be on you and focus on the one who's not happy when there's hundreds who are,
I mean, that's that like negativity bias. Is that what that's called? Mm-hmm. Where, 100 people are happy, but that one person isn't. And then that's all you can remember. Their, maybe nasty comments or something.
Right. Yeah. What do you do?
I mean, that's human nature, and that we've evolved to function like that. We're looking for problems. We're looking for dangers, and those are going to stand out. The tiger in the meadow is going to stand out so much more than all the flowers in the meadow. So that's fine. One, at this point in my business, I have a customer service team, and they get to handle all of those, and they don't tell me when there's someone who's just really unhappy. And
that's a beautiful thing.
And it's yeah. So that's really one that's seldom. It doesn't happen very frequently. I think especially when you're approaching customer service in a really compassionate, generous way where you care deeply about your customers. But if it does, then it's just, we have lots of refund policies, and if people aren't happy, as long as they ask for a refund within those certain days, then we give them their refund and our blessing and send them along their way. And I mean, you just can't let that be what you focus on. You have to focus on, and it's a real thing. And I spend a lot of time managing my brain and managing what I'm focusing on, what I'm putting my energy on. And that, I think, is the most important work that I do in the business, even more so than a Facebook ad campaign. Mm-hmm. It's managing my brain and managing where my energy and my life force, are. And so things like, if you're still in the inbox, things like pinning or saving in a folder all of the lovely emails that you get, putting those in there, and, once a day, or especially when you need it, go in that folder and read through those things to remind you of all of the people who do love your products. And spending time. I mean, I really love teaching live. So I do a lot of teaching live, and the people who come to that are really engaged. Mm-hmm. And so that's another way where I can engage with my customers in this really fun, positive way that helps to fill up my tank. Yeah. I mean, you're not going to please everybody. There's going to be people for sure that are unhappy with anything. Even if you gave them the most amazing product and the most amazing experience, some people it's not going to be their jam, and that's okay. And you wish them well, and just know that they're not your people, and that's okay.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's beautifully said. So I am curious, you mentioned Marie Forleo. Who are some other mentors that you've studied from and learned from?
Yeah. James Wedmore is another digital marketing. So really what it came to was back in 2016, I before that, I was looking in the quilt industry for examples of how to start and run a successful business here. And so I was doing what other people were doing within our industry. But as you know, and as you know, as I've spent more time in the industry, most people, even if they have huge followings, even if they're seen as big successes, most of them aren't making a lot of money. There's lots of fabric designers out there, for example, who have side jobs.
Yep.
Even if they're like really, really popular. And so once I started noticing that and noticing too, I am working so hard, working so many hours, and to what return? And so it was at that point that I started looking outside of the quilt industry for inspiration and that's how Scrappy Applique began. I was looking outside of the quilt industry for inspiration for this art form that I was creating, and I figured it out on my own. And so that's why it looks really unique, or at least did, back when I first created it. And I then did the same thing with digital marketing. So I started looking outside the quilt industry and finding these different mentors and learning as much as I could, and then trying to think, okay, well, how can I make this applicable for the quilt industry, and, testing things, and plenty of things worked and plenty of things didn't, and just kind of went from there.
Mm-hmm.
So, Marie Forleo, James Webmore, Stu McLaren, are among the top ones who've made a really big impact.
I love that.
Yeah.
And I actually really love this. I mean, sideways advice, but to look outside of the quilting industry. I think that's true for any medium, art, whatever, teaching,
Mm-hmm.
just to get outside of your box, to find inspiration, not to look at other people in your industry who are doing what you're doing, because then you're going to be doing what they're doing. But
Yep.
Look outside and put your head down, do your work, and you'll find more success that way. You'll be a little more unique, stand out from the crowd.
Yeah, absolutely.
So if you are looking back at your quilting career, what is the main advice that you would give to someone who is thinking of turning their craft into a career?
I would say understanding that you could do a little bit of research and look online for all of these different things that you could be doing. You can quickly get overwhelmed. You can quickly fill up your to-do list with a whole bunch of things that will maybe make a little tiny bit of a difference. But understanding the 80-20 rule, the Pareto principle of, 80% of your results are going to come from 20% of your actions. So how can you, instead of spending 100% of your time, on all these different actions, and only 20% of them are creating the most results? And I think actually what I found within my business is maybe 10% or 5% of the things that I was doing were actually making the biggest difference. So how can you instead focus on those few things that are going to really move the needle in your business? So big picture, those things are starting and growing an email list.
Mm-hmm.
I think is number one. Making offers and sharing those offers, making offers regularly to your audience. You're not going to make money if you're just posting on Instagram, sewing, making quilts and posting on Instagram. So how can you make offers? I think also where things really started pivoting for me was when I started investing in myself and in my own education, and understanding that my brain is the most important asset in my business, bar none. And so how can I invest in myself, my own education, to become more equipped and grow, and to take shortcuts, to learn from other people, so you don't have to spend a decade trying to figure it out on your own. So that was all really huge and powerful. And also what I mentioned before around the main, a huge focus of mine is on my own mindset, my own, where my attention is, where my energy is. And so if I spend time every single morning in meditation, in journaling, to really get tuned in to myself, tuned into my own source, and start the day from there. and let my intuition be my guide in terms of how I'm going to proceed with certain problems, and allowing everything to be fun and joyful. And if you reach a point in your business or in your day where something just feels really sluggish and slogging and just heavy, how can you write that down and see a list of all of the things that are just not fun and making you slowing you way down? And can you either eliminate it off of your list altogether? Can you delegate it to somebody else? Or can you flip it upside down and figure out a way to make it joyful? I think if you're able to go through life and your business from this place of centeredness, of joy, where everything that you're putting out there is just an overflowing of your own creativity and your own joy and pleasure, then who doesn't want to be a part of that? Who doesn't want to be your customer? You become, magnetic and become this shining light. And I think that is wildly underestimated and really powerful and just a much more fun way to move through the world.
I agree. And I mean, two things that I just need to bravo on is investing in yourself. And I have done it before.
Yeah.
That first time I signed up for a $1,000 course, I was like, oh my gosh, I can't believe I'm doing this. And then to see the total life change that brought into my business and my life.
How many thousands of dollars have you made back because of what you learned in that $1,000 course?
So many, so many. And initially it's like, no way, that I can't believe that I'm spending this, but I now would not change that for anything. It has completely changed my career and my life. And so when people are afraid to spend the money, that's fine. But it does come back to that. Anyhow, it comes back to really believing what you offer and that, that loving that. And I also want to touch on the centeredness thing. I forgot I did that before, and I would wake up and spend time meditating and journaling, and I need to do that again. The thoughts, the ideas, the centeredness, it's pretty powerful. It's good stuff.
It's so powerful. Almost all of my best ideas, the best products came from that place where I got really tuned into myself, really tuned in. And that sounds weird. I got very centered. I got very aligned. Whether if you have a spiritual practice already, if you have a prayer practice or a meditation practice or something like that, integrate that into your business. Because if you can tap into your own intuition, you can call it God, you can call it your own intuition, your inner knowing, your higher self, your whatever. If you can tap into that, one, you're going to come from such a much more fun, light place. But then also, so that's this, you become this channel for all of this inspiration and creativity to flow in. And all of my best ideas have come from there. The name for Meander, the structure of it came from there. So many different ways of marketing our products or creating these different lovely products has come from that place. And most people would think it's a waste of time. I'm way too busy to do this, but I think you are way too busy to not do it, because it can help you to, one, be a much more joyful, centered person, and help you to clear out the clutter and all of the static that lives in our lives and will, clutter your brain and your day, doing all of this busy work, and help you to really focus and align with, okay, what is going to be the one thing that I can accomplish today that's really going to move the needle forward.
I love that. Yes, this was a really great reminder for me. I'm really glad you touched on that. Thank you.
Yeah.
Well, this has been so fun. You're just awesome. You're an inspiration. I absolutely love hearing about and seeing the success that you're having. And thank you for being here.
Thank you so much for having me. This was so much fun. I could just sit here and chat with you all day long.
Same. So for our listeners, if they're wanting to find you, where can they find you?
Shannon-Brinkley.com is our website, and you can find out all about me, all about our different products. And that's probably the best place to go. Sign up for the newsletter and you can start seeing what those look like. And I'm starting to share a little bit more on Instagram. I'm at Shannon E. Brinkley over there. So come say hello. I'm sharing all about my, right now, my adventures in fabric dyeing. So you can't, since this is a podcast, you can't see, but I think Elizabeth can see my picture. I have blue Smurf hands because I've been dyeing fabric with indigo. So it's been a pleasure, and I'm sharing about that there.
Okay, I wondered. I was like, what's going on with the hands there?
Did she just have a really terrible manicure? Is she sick, or what's happening?
Very cool. All right. Well, thanks so much, Shannon. We'll see you soon.
Thanks for having me. Sounds great.
Shannon, thank you so much for being a guest on the Craft to Career podcast. I love chatting with you. And as I mentioned at the beginning, I'm excited to go and meditate and to do those morning practices that we talked about near the end. They really have made a difference. And it's just fun chatting with someone else in the industry who's thinking a little outside the box, has some really creative ideas, and has had some major success. It is just really impactful to have a community, have people that you can reach out to. So do reach out to me. I would love to be here for you. You know, if you are enjoying the podcast, for example, you can go ahead and reach out and let me know. You can let me know if there's something you want to hear. The biggest help is if you can rate the podcast, subscribe, leave a review. That, first of all, lets me know how this is resonating with listeners. And it also helps the podcast to be seen, to get in front of more people. So if you are enjoying the Craft to Career podcast, go ahead and leave a review. And next week, we have a really fun guest. She actually was a veterinarian, has done some stand-up comedy, and she now goes and talks to different businesses about creativity, how important it is to use your creativity, things you can do to help tap into that. And as an entrepreneur, it's hugely helpful for your success to be able to unwind and tap into that. So next week, be sure to join us for our guest who's going to be talking about creativity. Have a wonderful week, and I will see you later.